and welcome to Based on Faith. Today I'm going to be reviewing Beyond Awkward Side Dogs, Living as Christian Brothers and Sisters in a Sex-Crazed World. The author of this book is Bronwyn Lea, and here is the book. This book is a non-fiction book, rooted in scripture and attested by personal and pastoral stories. Beyond Awkward Side Dogs promises to be an invitation to relationship theology that moves beyond unhealthy, eroticized, fear-based patterns and towards gendered, generous relationships between men and women of character, loving one another as Jesus did. And with that, I'm going to say welcome to Based on Faith, where I, Faith, talk about books based on my faith in Christ. This book is in two parts, and the first part is Getting Our Bearings. And Getting Our Bearings, the first part details how culture, probably that in the US, because I feel like the author focused mostly in the US and of some other countries that are probably like the US culturally, inserts sexuality into everything, even from like a very young age. It also talks about love and how the English language has one word that is quite inadequate for the different dimensions of love that exist. And I think this is something a lot of Christians have heard about, how the Greek word love is not just one. There is phileo, there is eros, there is agape, and there is there is storge, and there are some other Greek words that explain the different way you can love things or love people, or even love yourself. And then she dives into Freudian sexuality and sexuality for how God intended it. And there is one thing she said that resonated with me very deeply in this section. She said, from the very beginning of creation, our maleness and femaleness together reveal the image of God. Men alone do not image God completely. Women alone do not image God completely. Both women and men together are needed to represent the wholeness and glorious complexity of our Creator. And this is from Genesis 1 verse 27 that says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Then the Freudian sexuality she was referring to is how Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, laid out the groundwork for our sex-focused culture, in the sense that Freud considered sexual desires, which he called libido, and repressed sexual desire as the driving forces in virtually every human interaction we have from infancy to old age. And she's like, Freud's legacy has lingered long, and we've become a society trained to suspect sexual undertones mostly everywhere. And she also talks about, today people are like, even close friendships of old, people are like, there must have been more to it. Like, I've heard people talk about how, and she also mentioned it, how the friendship of David and Jonathan, there must have been more to it. And I'm like, well, it could have just been friendship. She says, thanks to Freud, the nudge, wink, moments in our conversations almost always bend towards innuendo. And then she talks about social sexuality and genital sexuality, in the sense that every interaction I have involves me being fully present socially as a woman, as a female person. But not everything involves me being present, does not involve, genital sexuality. And she uses Jesus as an example of this, because we see that while Jesus never married, never sinned, and by extension died a virgin, we can't deny the fact that Jesus was fully man, that he is a human being and a male person, and that this is seen in his interactions with different people, because he related with them as a man. And despite Jesus' sexuality never being genitally expressed, nobody would think of him as a deficient male individual, because he never got to express his sexuality genitally, and we would not think of him as a person who also did not express a healthy social sexuality. And quoting the author, she says, in Jesus we see a perfect example of sexuality that is stewarded rather than suppressed. Jesus did not deny his maleness, and yet he showed us in multiple instances how a man can build intimate relationships without them becoming sexual or awkward. She then talks about the church and how the church is a family, and how the nuclear family fits within God's family. And I think she spends two chapters going over this, and with that she transitions into part 2 of the book, which is planning our route. And here Bronwyn tackles marriage first. She tackles what spousal relationships are supposed to look like and how some people set themselves up for trouble in marriages. You know how in marriages some people expect that their partners are going to be their right, maybe not right or die, like their partners are going to be their like very best bosom friends, and there is not. Of course, you want a partner who is like a very good friend and we hopefully is your best friend, but the thing is, she said your partner will not satisfy everything you're looking for in a friend. And if you set yourself up for failure by saying my partner must fulfill every expectation, of a friend that I'm looking for, or like my partner must like how does she say it? My partner must fulfill every expectation I'm looking for in a friend. You're kind of setting yourself up for trouble because your partner cannot fulfill every desire of your heart, despite them being a very good friend and all that to you. Like you need other friends. Yeah, you need other friends. You need community outside of your marriage. She also talks about male and female friendships for married people, and you know how some people are like, if you're a man you should not have any female friends other than your wife, and if you're a woman you should not have any male friends other than your husband. And she just brings up like examples of that, and she's not, I would say she's not naive in the way she's speaking about it, because she does talk about the ways it can go on, and she ends it with something I like. She says friends of married people should also be friends of the marriage. That is, if you have a friend and that friend is not a friend of your marriage, then you probably should not be friends with them, because they might end up messing up your marriage. Because a good friend of your marriage who is also your friend would advise you when things are going wrong. If a person is not a friend of your marriage, when your marriage is in trouble, more problem, because the person will be instigate, like the person will add fuel to the fire. She cites First Timothy chapter 5 verse 1 to 2, somewhere in this chapter, and it says, "Do not rebuke an older man, but exhort him as a father, younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, younger women as sisters, with all purity." And this was a good reminder for me, to be honest. Like the reminder to see every woman and every man that is older than me as a father and a mother in the faith, and every man or woman that is younger than me as a brother and a sister in the faith. She goes into her stories of friendships that turn into something else and emphasizes the wisdom of setting healthy boundaries in relationship. Like yes, have male and female friends, but also have those boundaries, because those boundaries are important. Like every relationship you have with people should have healthy boundaries set. In chapter 8 focuses on the single folk and how to navigate dating, and she ends this book with chapter 9, which is titled "Where Do We Go From Here? Sexual Stewardship as a Practice and an Invitation." Okay, so what do I think of this book? I think this book is like not the most concise book I've read. I feel like she could have written this book in less words. I feel like sometimes she went on and on and on, and I was just like, ma'am, you could have summarized that in a more succinct manner. And I also feel like there were lots of anecdotes, and the thing is I like anecdotes, but sometimes they get so much. It's like a lot. It's like, yes, wonderful, you're given personal stories to corroborate what you're saying, but can we reduce it, please and thank you. I'm not trying to like learn about okay, I don't want to be rude, but as much as your life is wonderful and it's fascinating, I'm not trying to learn everything there is to know about you. I'm just trying to learn about what you said the book was about. So can we reduce the anecdotes a bit? And it's also kind of reminiscent of blog style writing, which of course again there is nothing wrong with that, but I don't think I've read a book like that in a hot minute. Or have I even ever read a book like that? No. It's just something that I noted. Okay, the tone of this book is not particularly humorous. It's rather casual and informative. And my overall impression of this book is that there is a bit of something in this book for everyone, but again, it's kind of like everything in the book will probably not be for you. It's just like you have to take what you want to take. And I feel like it might have been better if there was one book written for married folk, then another book written for teenagers, but then again they would be like super small, and I don't feel like there is enough material for that. So I think this was a good book overall. I can't pin down a particular target audience. I feel like it's for both like the young folk, the old folk, and all that stuff. And I would say at some point while reading this book I got lost. I got lost in chapters 3 and 4. I'm like, okay, what are we trying to say? What exactly, what's the point you're trying to get to? Yeah, so that's that on that. For me, this book honestly is like a 7.3, 7.2 out of 10. I wrote down that I would give it a 7 out of 10, but I want to be generous. Again, it's a good book. It's just it doesn't have one particular target audience. When it comes to like relationships in that aspect, it's like there are so many people to talk to, and it feels like she was trying to talk to everybody, and in trying to talk to everybody and reach everybody or most people, it feels like the parts that did not relate to particular people might have made them go, okay, good to know, all right, no problem, I'll note that, but I don't really care about this right now because this is not where I'm at in this relationship. But in reading it, you might also be able to like help other people who are going through those situations in life. So nothing spoiled. All right, thank you very much for staying to the end of this book. If you're looking for other fiction books to read, I recently reviewed You Are the Treasure That I Seek, and You Are the Treasure That I Seek talks about how as Christians we've formed up idols in our hearts, and how how to truly go after God, who is like the true treasure. And I'll post it somewhere up here. Okay, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to get notified when I post new videos. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.